Hello all you freedom-loving people. Prince Andrew's relinquished his title as Duke of York today. Bolton pled not guilty to all 18 charges. Jack Smith was referred to be disbarred, and there was a quiet meeting with President Zelensky today. Okay, let's get into it. Prince Andrew relinquished his titles today, including his title as Duke of York, after years of scrutiny over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. He will remain a prince and eighth in line to the throne, but he will no longer hold formal royal roles or attend most public events. In a statement, he said, "We have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and country first. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me." According to contemporary historian Anthony Selden, the last time a dukedom was taken away from a senior royal was in 1919. That's when Prince Charles Edward, who was one of Queen Victoria's grandsons, lost the title of Duke of Albany. Also, former White House National Security Advisor John Bolton pled not guilty to all 18 counts of illegally sharing and retaining classified information. Bolton appeared in a courthouse in Maryland today after being indicted yesterday by the Trump administration. He was indicted on 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of retention of national defense information. Yesterday, we reported that the indictment alleges that Bolton abused his position as National Security Advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information about his day-to-day activities as the National Security Advisor, including information relating to the national defense, which was classified up to the top secret level with 2 unauthorized individuals. And based on the indictment, the documents that Bolton allegedly transmitted were sent to 2 individuals who were unauthorized to view classified information. Reportedly, those documents include intelligence on planned foreign attacks, sensitive data from an allied partner, evidence of an adversary's future missile launch plans, and details about a covert mission in a foreign country that was related to high-level government operations, along with other information. Bolton faces $250,000 in fines and 10 years in prison for each count. The charges came after authorities recovered documents and other items during a search of Bolton's home and office recently. FBI Director Kash Patel said in a statement yesterday, the FBI's investigation revealed that John Bolton allegedly transmitted top-secret information using personal online accounts and retained said documents in his house in direct violation of federal law. As National Security Advisor, Bolton had a sensitive compartment information facility within his home that was approved for processing and storage of classified information. But based on the indictment, at no point was he authorized to store or transmit classified information on unclassified systems. Patel also said the case was based on meticulous work from dedicated career professionals at the FBI who followed the facts without fear or favor. Weaponization of justice will not be tolerated, and this FBI will stop at nothing to bring to justice anyone who threatens our national security. Bolton said in a statement today, "Now I have become the latest target in weaponizing the Justice Department to charge those who he deems to be his enemies with charges that were declined before or distorted the facts." Abbe Lowell, the attorney who represents Bolton, said that the charges that Bolton faces are linked to parts of his personal diaries and include unclassified information that was shared with only immediate family members. Lowell also said that this was known to the FBI dating back to at least 2021. Lowell said, like many public officials throughout history, Ambassador Bolton kept diaries. That is not a crime. The court is expected to hold a status hearing on November 21st. In the meantime, Bolton is allowed to travel inside the United States freely, but he must seek court approval before traveling internationally. Today, Bolton surrendered his travel documents, including his passport, to his attorney in court. Also, former special counsel Jack Smith was criminally referred to the Department of Justice yesterday. He was referred by multiple Republican lawmakers, led by Senator Marsha Blackburn, for alleged misconduct and possible disbarment. Lawmakers sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi and asked her office to refer Smith to the Office of Professional Responsibility for an investigation. A statement from Blackburn's office said that Smith had allegedly engaged in serious prosecutorial misconduct through the politically motivated Arctic Frost investigation. It was revealed earlier this month that the FBI had obtained cell phone records of several sitting Republican senators. The senators wrote that they have yet to learn of any legal predicate for the Biden Department of Justice issuing subpoenas to obtain these cell phone records. In their letter, the lawmakers accused Smith of infringing on the rights of elected officials and violating their respective rights to privacy. So far, Smith has not publicly responded to the Republican lawmakers' statement about their phone records being obtained. President Trump had a cabinet meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the White House today. This was Zelensky's third visit to the White House this year. President Trump expressed confidence that he'd be able to convince Putin to agree to peace, and he welcomed Zelensky at the door of the West Wing. Zelensky then joined President Trump for a cabinet meeting.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to be with a very strong leader, a man who has been through a lot, and a man who I've gotten to know very well, and we've gotten along really very well. And we had a big call yesterday, as you know, with President Putin, and we'll be talking about it. President Zelensky of Ukraine has endured a lot. I mean, he really has. He's endured a lot, and we've endured it with him. To be honest, it's been a long time, and I think we're making great progress. So we're going to be talking about that today. We'll be talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin.
Tomahawk missiles were expected to be a central topic of discussion in the meeting with Zelensky. During the cabinet meeting, President Trump expressed hope that he would be able to resolve the war without sending Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
If you okay Tomahawks to Ukraine, what's going to happen if the United States is in a conflict and we need the Tomahawks? Do we have enough?
That's a problem. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other things that we've been sending over the last 4 years to Ukraine. We've been, we gave them a lot. Now we have a different situation. We send it to the European Union. They pay for it and all that, and they have plenty of money. But it's beyond the money. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. And one of the reasons we want to get this war over is exactly that. It's not easy for us to give. You're talking about massive numbers of very powerful weapons. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about. Hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about Tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that.
President Trump also mentioned the missiles yesterday during another meeting at the White House.
We talked about it a little bit, didn't say much, but I do say to you, we need Tomahawks for the United States of America, too. We have a lot of them, but we need them. I mean, we can't deplete for our country. So, they're very vital. They're very powerful. They're very accurate. They're very good, but we need them, too.
Putin tried to dissuade you from selling Tomahawk missiles.
Well, of course. What do you think he's going to say? Please sell Tomahawks? Is he going to say, please sell those Tomahawks? I really appreciate it. I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition? I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea. He really didn't like the idea. No, I said it that way. You have to be a little bit lighthearted sometimes, but no, he doesn't want Tomahawk. Tomahawk is a vicious weapon. It's a vicious, offensive, incredibly destructive weapon. Nobody wants Tomahawk shot at him.
After the meeting, President Trump wrote The meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine was very interesting and cordial, but I told him, as I likewise strongly suggested to President Putin, that it's time to stop the killing and make a deal. Zelensky also said that he had a productive and long meeting with President Trump, and that both agreed not to make statements about long-range strikes into Russia, as the United States does not want escalation, and etc. The visit came after President Trump spoke with Putin on the phone yesterday. President Trump said that he plans to share details of that conversation with Zelensky. President Trump and Putin are planning to have a summit in Hungary in the coming days. Hungarian President Viktor Orban spoke with President Trump yesterday and with Putin today. He said that preparations for the summit are going full steam ahead. Speaking on state radio today, Orban said that Hungary is the only country in Europe that could host such a meeting, and that is always pro-peace. In less than a week, President Trump has threatened to attack Venezuela using ground troops. He has also confirmed ongoing CIA covert operations inside the country. And then he ordered B-52 bombers that are capable of dropping nuclear weapons to fly in circles off the coast of Venezuela. The bombers showed up after 10,000 troops were deployed to Latin America this year, building up a massive military asset in the region.
Fox News alert, B-52 bombers are flying off the coast of Venezuela. Trump's not bluffing. Right now, more than 10,000 U.S. soldiers are built up in the Caribbean, on ships in Puerto Rico, locked and loaded. Special operations helicopters were just seen flying 90 miles from Venezuela's coast. The chopper units used by Delta Force, Navy SEALs, and the Green Berets. The Black Ops were spotted off the coast of Trinidad. They're very important for search and rescue missions. Also spotted little birds. They're smaller but faster, designed for quick insertion of special operators behind enemy lines. The Ghost was also confirmed to be in the Caribbean. That's the nickname for MV Ocean Trader. It's the kind of ship that doesn't want to be found. It's designed for black ops and special missions because it's dark and blends in with cargo. There's more. 10% of the U.S. naval power is now in the region. It's a major shift. There's subs, several destroyers, and F-35 fighters in Puerto Rico. That's on top of all the coke boats getting smoked to pieces by the week.
The latest strike on another alleged drug smuggling boat came just yesterday. Officials also confirmed yesterday that a special operations aviation unit had conducted training exercises in international waters near Venezuela earlier this month. According to the Trump administration, Venezuelan President Maduro leads a narco state that enables large-scale drug trafficking in the United States. Yesterday, we mentioned that the Trump administration is using all tools necessary to pressure Maduro, whether it be with economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, as well as legal actions. The State Department, back in August, also doubled to $50 million its reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest and conviction on drug trafficking charges. Yesterday, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the recent military operations as being necessary in fighting illegal drug trafficking.
Nicolas Maduro, does President Trump believe, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, does President Trump believe his days are numbered there?
I think President Trump believes that Nicolas Maduro is an illegitimate president leading an illegitimate regime that has been trafficking drugs to the United States of America for far too long, and we're not going to tolerate it.
Yesterday, President Trump refiled his $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, book publisher Penguin Random House, and 3 New York Times reporters. President Trump filed his original lawsuit on September 15th, but District Judge Stephen Merriday tossed it out because of its length. Judge Merriday said that it stands unmistakably and inexcusably athwart the requirements of Rule 8 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. So he gave President Trump 28 days to revise the lawsuit. The first lawsuit was 85 pages. The second lawsuit, which was filed yesterday, is 40 pages. In the lawsuit, President Trump alleged that 2 articles and a book that were published last year ahead of the presidential election contained statements that were intended to wrongly defame and disparage his professional reputation. The lawsuit named New York Times reporters Susan Craig and Russ Buettner, as well as New York Times chief White House correspondent Peter Baker among the defendants. According to the filing, among the alleged defamatory statements are claims that President Trump received more than $400 million from his father through fraudulent tax evasion schemes. The claim also cited the New York Times coverage of his role in the TV series The Apprentice and its statements about his compliance with federal tax law. The lawsuit reads, defendants individually and collectively published numerous false, malicious, and defamatory statements while realizing that these statements were false or, at a minimum, with reckless disregard for the truth. President Trump is seeking $15 billion in compensatory damages and an unspecified amount of punitive damages, which will be determined upon trial. And in another court case involving President Trump and his administration, a federal appeals court yesterday rejected their request to pause a lower court ruling from last week that temporarily blocked the deployment of National Guard troops to Illinois during his appeal. The three-judge panel of the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that it lacked evidence that federal law enforcement has been unable to enforce immigration laws. So their ruling keeps in effect District Judge April Perry's October 9th temporary restraining order in Chicago that halted the deployment of National Guard troops. But the appeals court paused the part of Judge Perry's order that barred the Trump administration from federalizing Illinois' National Guard troops and allowed them to remain under federal control. Judge Perry's order will remain in effect until at least October 23rd, and she has set a hearing for October 22nd to decide whether it should be extended. When President Trump deployed National Guard troops to Illinois, he said that violent protests were preventing federal agents from detaining illegal immigrants. But the court said that immigration enforcement in Illinois had continued as usual over the past year, and that the administration itself had touted its success in the Chicago area. The court also stated that the move likely violated Illinois' constitutional sovereignty, especially after the involvement of Texas National Guards. The judges also were skeptical that the federal government would be able to show that it had legally taken control of the troops, but they said that leaving them under federal oversight would lead to minimal harm to Illinois for now. In response, Abigail Jackson, who is a White House spokesperson, said that the Trump administration had acted legally to protect federal law enforcement and its assets. Jackson said, President Trump will not turn a blind eye to the lawlessness plaguing American cities, and we expect to be vindicated by a higher court. In the meantime, immigration and custom enforcement operations continue around the country. ICE announced yesterday that together with other law enforcement agencies, they arrested 1,406 illegal immigrant offenders from Massachusetts between September 4th and September 30th. Arrests took place under Operation Patriot 2.0, which was ICE's renewed effort after the original Operation Patriot ended on May 31st. The new operation focuses on criminal illegal immigrants who are active in Boston and other parts of the state. ICE said that the newly arrested individuals include rapists, murderers, child sex predators, and drug traffickers. Among the arrested were an El Salvadoran citizen convicted of indecent assault and assault to rape, a Brazilian with criminal pending charges including rape, an Indian with pending charges for battery on a person over 14, a Laotian convicted of second-degree murder, and a Turkish person with pending charges of kidnapping. Yesterday, the New York mayoral race reached a pivotal moment when the three leading candidates took part in a fiercely contested televised debate. This marks the first public debate between Democrat Zoran Mamdani, Republican Curtis Sliwa, and former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was running as an independent. Since incumbent New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced in late September that he would not seek re-election, the once crowded field of candidates has narrowed to a three-way race. Although Adams has not publicly endorsed any candidate, CBS News New York reported that he is considering backing Cuomo. Adams has consistently criticized Mamdani, so it's unlikely he would support him. The Hill reported that according to Decision Desk headquarters polling data, when Adams announced his withdrawal, Mamdani held 45% support, while Cuomo stood at 27%. About 10 days later, Mamdani's support edged up to 46%, Cuomo climbed to 31%, and Sliwa remained steady at around 13%. For Cuomo, who currently trails in the polls, the two debates before November 4th will be crucial battles that could determine whether he can turn the tide. The current strategy for the Cuomo camp is to win over Adams' original support base. However, within the Democratic Party, opinions are divided on the question of who to support. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has publicly endorsed his longtime friend Sliwa, praising his extensive experience in maintaining public safety and advocating for vulnerable communities. Conversely, several of Giuliani's former aides have chosen to side with Cuomo. Democratic rising star Mamdani, labeled a communist by President Trump, currently leads in the polls, but he still faces significant challenges. Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa repeatedly hit the Democratic candidate on tough issues like Israel, his past call to defund the police, and his lack of experience. But it still may not be enough to move the needle. Regarding the debate, Lee Miringoff, the director of the Marist University Institute for Public Opinion, said, "I did not conclude from this debate any major shift in voter sentiment. There was no aha moment." In order to counteract the negative impact on his image, Mamdani has adopted a pragmatic strategy. He has pledged to stop using controversial slogans like "globalize the Intifada," and he has reached out to business leaders proactively. Notably, even corporate giants like Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, who had previously held reservations, has begun extending goodwill and adopting an open stance toward his election. But Mamdani has yet to secure the backing of key political figures in New York State, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who have not yet publicly endorsed him. Republican strategist Rob Ryan gave props to Cuomo for showing off his experience. He said he was well rehearsed and did his best to be affable, which is exceedingly hard for him. He also said that Cuomo deserves an A since he proved that he was the most knowledgeable candidate on the issues. But Mamdani's ability to remain message disciplined and to come back to his core message of affordability is also highly praised by other observers. Democratic operative Ken Friedman said, "Whether or not you like what he has to say about Israel, Hamas, cops, gifted and talented school children, private property rights, higher taxes, or legalized prostitution, Mamdani has maintained message discipline and control about the city's unaffordability. That's what wins elections." Mamdani's trump card is freezing rent increases for more than 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. New York City ranks as the second most expensive city in the country, according to World Population Review data, and housing is the second most expensive in the United States. Cuomo likewise vowed to increase affordable housing units. Mamdani has also made free buses the centerpiece of his campaign as a way to lower current crime rate. There is another issue that no candidate can avoid. How would they deal with President Trump if elected mayor? President Trump has already made it clear that if Mamdani wins, he will cut federal aid to New York City and may deploy the National Guard if necessary. Cuomo claims that he is best suited to confront the president's threats because he frequently clashed with President Trump during his tenure as governor. Mamdani countered by pointing out that Cuomo shares overlapping donors with President Trump, making him incapable of effectively counterbalancing the White House, while he's the only candidate with no ties to the president. Republican Sliwa, despite sharing similar views with President Trump on public safety issues, has a strained relationship with him. President Trump has also publicly stated that Sliwa is not up to the task. Political observers widely agree that although Sliwa trails in the polls, he remains a pivotal figure and he refuses to withdraw from the race. Republican strategist Rob Ryan also noted Sliwa's strong performance. He said, "A new and mature Curtis Sliwa came off as serious and fairly well-versed on issues. Also, he gets a gold star for not bringing up feral felines over the course of the debate." Sliwa's approach will continue to split the conservative vote, making Cuomo's path to catching up with Mamdani even more difficult. The candidates are scheduled to meet for a second and final debate next week. Federal officials announced charges against 2 Los Angeles-based property developers yesterday in separate cases that allege misuse of government funds that were meant to address the homelessness crisis. California has the largest homeless population in the United States. A public audit report revealed that the state spent $24 billion over a 5-year period ending in 2024 to address homelessness. Yet much of the expenditure lacked measurable outcomes, amounting to a series of murky expenditures. U.S. Acting Attorney Bill Asaley stated at a press conference yesterday that his department is currently tracking the flow and use of billions of dollars in public funds across 7 Southern California counties, noting that these funds are often wasted, mismanaged, or even outright stolen. One of the defendants named in the lawsuit is Cody Holmes of Beverly Hills, formerly the chief financial officer of Shangri-La Industries, which is an affordable housing developer in Los Angeles. According to the submitted affidavit in October 2022, the California Department of Housing and Community Development, the HCD, allocated approximately $25.9 million to advance a homeless housing initiative called HomeKey. To secure this government program, Holmes allegedly used falsified bank records to misrepresent to the HCD that Shangri-La and its affiliates controlled approximately $160 million in funds, thereby purporting his company's capability to implement the HomeKey homeless housing project. However, the investigation revealed that the bank account funds mentioned by Shangri-La and Holmes did not exist at all. Before the scam was uncovered, Shangri-La had already received millions of dollars in project funds from the California Department of Housing. The funds from the HomeKey project were illegally misappropriated. In November and December of 2022, over $2.2 million was transferred from a Shangri-La account to Holmes' personal account, with $2 million used to repay Holmes' credit card incurred at a prominent luxury retailer. In another case, Stephen Taylor, a developer and real estate agent from Brentwood, Los Angeles, was charged with 7 counts of bank fraud, 1 count of identity theft, and 1 count of money laundering. According to the indictment, from August 2019 to July 2025, Taylor obtained loans and lines of credit to operate his real estate business by providing false bank statements and cash documentation. And he used the fraudulent funds to purchase properties in multiple areas of Los Angeles. Taylor also fraudulently sold a property that was purchased for $11 million to a homeless housing developer for $27 million through concealment and deception. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Hey, and just a reminder, we'll be away next week for a few days, so there will not be a show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we will see you next Thursday. And please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.